We are in the midst of the long, cold, dark A-League's off-season. Still a few months remain until the 2025-26 A-League men's season kicks off. So I'm going to go through my early ladder prediction for the upcoming A-League men's season. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. What are your hot takes? What are your predictions? 13th place. It is always tough because those teams at the bottom often do a lot of recruiting. But for me, I'm going to say Brisbane Roar finishing bottom spot. Even though I am optimistic about Brisbane this season, I would love to see them do well. They've obviously been struggling a lot in recent years, but for me, they're the one that I could see finishing towards the bottom this year once again. They struggled so much last year. A new head coach in Michael Valkanis, very curious to see how he goes. And some of their signings have actually been pretty decent. I like the signing of James McGarry, who's got great A-League experience. You've got Dean Bazanis returning to the A-League. Michael Roos has joined the Brisbane Roar as well. And curious to see how new midfielder Milorad Stajic goes at the club as well. They have parted ways with a lot of players who were there last season. So for the most part, it will be a new look Brisbane Roar going forward next season, which of course they had to do after what was an incredibly disappointing campaign last time around. So really interested to see how Michael Valkanis goes about setting this side up. But again, I hate putting them last. I could see them finishing high up the ladder, especially, we'll see what else they do in the transfer market. And that should be said. It's still early days in the transfer window. There's so many signings that we will see. So this ladder prediction will certainly change in a couple months' time. There's no doubt. In 12th place, I have Wellington Phoenix, one of the few teams yet to make a signing at the time of this recording, at least in mid-July. Still, of course, plenty of time in the transfer window, but Phoenix have been very quiet so far. But we have seen a number of departures from them. Scott Wootton, Sam Sutton, Costa Barbarouses all leaving the club. Those are big departures. You look at that Phoenix side from a couple of years ago when they finished in the top two. A lot of those guys have left the club now. There's really only a handful remaining, and it feels like there's a new era for Wellington Phoenix going forward after a pretty average campaign for them in the end. Struggled to score a lot of goals last season. Going to be interesting to see where Phoenix get those goals from with Costa Barbarouses leaving the club. I mean, he's been such a key player for them going forward in recent seasons. They've got some really exciting young players come through, the likes of Gabriel Sloan Rodriguez, Luke Brooks-Smith had a bit of a breakout season last campaign as well. And I'm sure we'll see more youngsters come through at Wellington Phoenix. Yes, we know Wellington Phoenix will be making some signings, of course, over the coming months. But at the moment, I think it's going to take a lot for them to push up the ladder this season. Finishing alongside Wellington Phoenix in 11th spot, and it breaks my heart to say as a Mariners fan, but I do think Central Coast Mariners will struggle this season. Again, based on what we've seen so far this season in the transfer window, parting ways with a number of players, some key personnel as well. Brian Kaltak leaving, that is a huge departure. Alu Kowal has joined rivals Western Sydney Wanderers, the likes of Noah Smith, Will Wilson, Sash Gazewski, Jack Wachowski, and Mikael Docker as well. I mean, even heading out on loan, which is a big shock to Mariners fans. Docker was probably Mariners' best player last season. Similar to sort of Wellington Phoenix, you look at that contingent from that Mariners team that won the treble, not that long ago. There's not many players left at the club now. We had so many players leave last season with the likes of Max Ballard, Jacob Farrell, Josh Nisbet, and now, Alu Kowal, Brian Kaltak, Mikael Docker. Again, similar to Wellington Phoenix. Feels like a new era going forward for Central Coast Mariners, yet to see any ins. But obviously there's been a lot of speculation and concern in regards to what's happening with the ownership situation with Central Coast Mariners. So I think a lot hinges on that. If that can all get sorted out sooner than later, then hopefully Mariners can build a competitive and strong team for this upcoming season. Because obviously Mariners need to do a lot of work in this transfer window to finish higher on the ladder than what they did last season. In 10th place, I have Adelaide United, one of the really weird stories of last season. The first few months, they were unbelievable. They were towards the top of the ladder. They were competing alongside Auckland FC for pretty much the first half of the season, and then they completely dropped off. It was really concerning the way that they fell apart there towards the end of the season, just snuck into finals but got knocked out in the first week. A lot has been said in the media in recent weeks in regards to what has gone on behind the scenes, in regards to head coach Carl Vert leaving the side. Obviously the big signing for them is Craig Goodwin. He's back in the A-League. That is always, a great thing to have for Adelaide United. He's a top player, and I'm sure will really boost Adelaide's chances of finishing in finals once again. Isaias Yavi Lopez have retired. Ryan Tunnicliffe, Josh Carvalho, Jordan Elsey, and James Delianov departing the club as well. But for me, especially with what we saw towards the end of last season, I think Reds need to do a lot of work with new head coach Etan Andrioli to rebuild this team into a strong competitive side. But I just get the sense that the Reds will slip down this season. One side that I think will make a bit of a step up this season is Perth Glory. And I'm especially curious to see where you guys think Perth Glory will finish this season, because this seems to happen every year now for the last 4 or 5 years, where Glory will really struggle and do a lot of really impressive rebuilding in the off-season. And a lot of people call them to finish finish high up the ladder. Some people even predicting them to push into the finals positions. I don't think they've got enough yet to do that. Maybe a few more key signings, and I could see them being a final contender this year. But you look at their signings and you can't ignore the quality that they have brought in, the A-League experience as well. Brian Kaltak, Sam Sutton, Scotty Wootton, Callum Timmins is there, Mark Birigidi. They have seen a number of players depart, but I think you look at those ins and you just can't ignore the quality there that they have brought in. And when you consider that they have the likes of Lockie Wales and Adam Taggart in attack, there's a formidable team there, a lot of potential for a formidable team. And it's all about, can David Zrilic get this team clicking early on in the season? Because we know what happened last campaign. They got smashed on the opening day of the season, conceded 6 goals away to MacArthur FC. I like that they have been very proactive in this transfer window, making moves very early on. Like I said, I think a couple more key signings away from being a finals contender this season. I'm predicting an 8th place finish for Newcastle Jets. A new era for Newcastle, as well as new eras for pretty much most of these teams in the A-League, of course. Mark Milligan taking over as head coach at the Jets. I have a good feeling about Mark Milligan and Newcastle Jets this season. I feel like it's just going to work out. I don't know what it is, but obviously a former player at Newcastle Jets, was an assistant at Adelaide United recently as well. I like some of the signings that they've made, bringing in some exciting attacking players in Alex Badalado and Max Burgess. Irish centre-back Joe Shaughnessy has arrived at the club as well, and especially re-signing someone like Kota Mizunuma, who was fantastic for the second half of last season. I mean, again, a lot of ingredients there for Newcastle Jets to build a competitive team. It was really interesting watching the Jets in the second half of last season. They put in some impressive performances. They defeated the likes of Adelaide United and Melbourne City away last season. So if Mark Milligan can get this squad clicking, then I think they could be a really dangerous team this season, Newcastle Jets. Not enough just yet to push into the finals for me. But the thing for the Jets is that it's been so long now since they've played finals football. Can this be the campaign that they finally do it? There is potential there, but maybe not just yet for me. And in 7th place, just missing out on finals for me, I've got Western United. Slipping down the ladder from where they finished last season, John Aloisi has re-signed for the upcoming campaign. At the moment, the likes of Reece Bosnowski and Angus Thurgate are still there. You do have to acknowledge the departures of someone especially like Noah Botic, who was incredible for them last season, 12 goals, 6 assists. They have brought in Jaden Kaczarski from Sydney FC, which is I think, really smart signing from Western United, and I'd expect him to be that direct replacement for Noah Botic. But I do get the sense that they maybe will just slip down a little bit. But hey, we'll see. They were the team that really caught us by surprise last campaign. I predicted Western to finish a little bit lower down on the ladder, but they were pushing right up. They were even challenging the top 2 towards the end of the season there, weren't they? But for Western United, I think they will be competitive once again this season, but may just miss out on finals this time around. Time for the top 6, and in 6th place for me, I've got Sydney FC. Another interesting one. Very curious to see where you guys are predicting Sydney FC to finish at this stage, at least. Have been relatively quiet in the transfer window. Have been bringing in some younger players. There have been some top quality players who have departed the club. Patrick Lamala, Anas Wahim, Adrian Sagicic, of course, Anthony Caceres departing the club. I mean, so many of those guys are big contributors to Sydney FC, whether it was just over the last season or for the last few years now as well. All eyes are on Sky Blues this season, and especially head coach Ufuk Talay, because they need to respond after what was an absolute disaster missing out on finals last season. We said it a lot at the end of last campaign. It was an utter disaster that Sydney FC did not play finals football last season with the team that they had. Douglas Costa, Joe Lawley, Adrian Sagic. It's just unbelievable that they didn't play finals football. Maybe comes down to defense, and there was a lot of chopping and changing at the back line there. We remember last season, Ryan Grant was playing a lot of games at centre back. Andrew Redmayne was swapped out for Harrison Devonish-Mears on the goalkeeper position. So there's some question marks when it comes to, well, not only defense and goalkeeper, but they're going to make some attacking signings now after the departures that they have had. So I was going to predict them to finish lower, but I think just because Ufuk Talay has to start this season strong. He has to start this season strong. Have to respond with some big signings, and I expect them to make some big moves. At this moment in time, I'm calling him to finish 6th, but we'll keep an eye on what they do in the transfer window this season. But I think they will just get over the line in the end, Sydney FC. Coming in 5th place for me at this stage, I've got Melbourne Victory, which is where they finished last season, and of course made it all the way to the grand final, losing to their rival City in the end, of course. I wanted to call Victory to finish lower on the ladder, and that is coming off the departures that they have had. Some key players in the departures, especially someone like Casey Boss, who was so important for them last season, Daniel Arzani, Ryan Teague. Those are huge departures for Melbourne Victory. The signings are interesting. Louis Dorigo, Keegan Jelicic, Franco Lino's back on loan as well. Obviously, it will be hurting Melbourne Victory, the fact that they've made the last two A-League men's grand finals losing both. So how do they respond to those setbacks in recent years? So Melbourne Victory, I mean, a fascinating one. If they remain pretty quiet in the transfer window, I don't know, man. They're even a chance to slip out of finals. No doubt they still have some quality players there. Who knows? Some of the other clubs may leapfrog Victory this season, but I think, club the size of Victory, they should be playing finals every year. Jumping into fourth place for me, a return to finals for Macarthur FC is my prediction. I feel like I do this a lot, where I'm a bit optimistic about Macarthur FC, end up having a pretty mediocre season, finishing outside the top six. But I am really excited for the Bulls, for the signings of Anthony Caceres, Callum Talbot, Harry Politidis signing with the club. This is a team who already has some decent players there. We do have to acknowledge some of their departures though. Keely Adamson leaving the club. He was one of the best right backs in the league last campaign. I think Jake Holman is another massive departure as well, especially looking at that Anthony Caceres signing. That is a huge one, especially pinching him from rival Sydney FC. I do like Talbot and Politidis as two solid fullback options there. I think they really need to sign in a top quality striker. I think if they get that, Caceres could link up with a star striker there at Macarthur. There's, a potential for goals there at the Bulls as well. I should acknowledge Marin Jakalic also leaving. So yes, they have those big name departures, but some of those signings I am excited about. I'd expect them to make more big moves in the transfer window, of course, with still plenty of time remaining. The Bulls, I think they can make a charge up the ladder this year. Coming into third place for me is last year's premiers, the newest team joining the A-League men's competition, Auckland FC. Don't get me wrong, Auckland will be very strong this campaign once again. I think they will play finals once again. The big concern is the goalkeeper position. Alex Paulson departing. We know he was the best goalkeeper in the A-League for the last couple of years now. That's obviously a big loss. Nato Moreno has left the club, as well as Max Matza. They've only brought in goalkeeper Scott Morris so far. Luca Rogerson has re-signed for the upcoming campaign, but considering that they will still have a lot of those players who were there last season that helped make their defense so strong, they will be really tough to beat at home. I think once again, Auckland FC this season may not be as dominant as they were last campaign, but still a very tough team to beat. I'm predicting big things this season from Western Sydney Wanderers. And again, this is a dangerous one because it's easy to get excited about Western Sydney Wanderers thinking about the history of that club and the success that they did see in their early years. And when they bring in a few impressive signings, you think, oh wow, are the Wanderers of old, the Wanderers of the 2010s finally going to return? I think there's a chance. You look at the signings of Costa Barbarouses, Steven Ugajkovic, Philip Kankar, Alu Kowal, good signings. Big departures though, especially Nicholas Milanovic, who was just phenomenal last season. Johnny Warren, medal winner, and rightly so after a incredible campaign. Costa Barbarouses adds fantastic A-League experience to that front line. Steven Ugajkovic adds quality to the midfield. I am curious to see how Alan Stajic goes about setting Wanderers up in attack. You look at the fact that they've got Ali Kowal, Costa Barbarouses alongside Brandon Borello. Do one of those guys play in a wide position? So we'll see what happens there going forward for Western Sydney Wanderers. But yeah, man, they showed real promising signs, especially the second half of last season. Wanderers, if they can get rid of those inconsistent results, just losing games here and there, which we have seen Wanderers do a lot in recent years, get that out of the way, maintain a really strong defense for the upcoming season. I think they've got the potential to be a real strong team for 2025-26. And that means returning to the top of the A-League men's ladder for me is Melbourne City, last year's A-League men's champions, and we're close to claiming the Premier's plate, but of course Auckland FC just beating them to it. You can't deny this club, Melbourne City, who year after year are always so competitive. Yes, year before last they had a bit of a shaky season, but I'd expect them to be strong once again this year. Quiet in the transfer window, Liam Bonatig has joined the club, young defender back in Australia. They have lost a handful of players, but some of the re-signings I think have been really good ones, with the likes of Lapane, Cyprian, Caputo re-signing for the upcoming campaign. Goalkeeper Patrick Beach has also re-signed, who was very good last year as well. And we know Melbourne City are always capable of signing top quality players. They've signed some great midfielders in recent years, the likes of Tolga Arslan, and last year it was Andreas Kuhn, who was very good for them as well. We're defensively just so solid last season, man. They conceded the least number of goals in the regular season last year, Melbourne City. So I'd expect them to be really strong this year. Hard to beat at home. Melbourne City, they will build a quality team for this campaign and an easy team to predict to lift the Premier's plate this campaign. So there is my early A-League men's ladder prediction for the upcoming season. I do want to emphasize that this is an early prediction. I guarantee you these predictions will change. So make sure to stay subscribed to Auswatch Football here to stay up to date to what's happening with our A-League teams throughout this off season. And we'd love to hear from you guys as well. What's your ladder prediction at this stage in pre-season? Hit the like button on the way up to support the channel. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and stay subscribed for more A-League content. My name's Lockie, and I'll see you in the next one.